Hi, and welcome to Screens in Focus, the podcast where we talk about TV and movies. I'm Diana, and today we are talking about The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, Season 2, Episode 1. Renee is here to join me. Hi, Renee. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Excited to talk this episode.
I am so excited. So, we're going to just jump right into it. And we are going to start with our question of the day that we're going to pose to our friends out there. With this episode, one of the big things is Carol telling this lie. And the reason she does it is for her friend Daryl. So, the question of the day is, was Carol justified in lying to Ash? How far would you go for a friend? So think about it, Renee, and we'll answer that in a little while. Friends out there, what do you think? We would love to know. You can comment here on YouTube, on social media. You can call us. All those links are in our show notes, and we're going to answer that in just a little bit. So, and we're going to talk about it too. So before we get to the main episode, I want to bring up any news that might be out there. And I know, Renee, I talked to you about there's been several passings, and I know you shared one of them, which is Kristofferson. You had shared a little bit on social media about that. So do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, it's just one of those iconic people who I just remember, like with music and acting roles that he was in. I just remember him as a child, and for some reason his music really, I just remember that a lot. I don't know if it was on TV or my parents, I guess they must have listened. I don't know, but that just really was, like one of those things where I listened to some of those songs and thought, wow, I know all these songs, and so it was just, I don't know, it's just sad. He's always such a handsome guy. So yeah, it's always sad when we lose these guys. And
Yeah.
I was trying to find some kind of a Walking Dead thing. How can I write an article on my site, making it fit into the theme of the site? And I was like, oh, that's right. Norman Reedus starred in Blade 2 with him. So then I got my little thing, and Norman Reedus had posted just a picture of him. So it was like, oh, there it is, But yeah, it's just sad. It's always sad, all of these. I mean, yeah.
I remember Kristofferson so much in A Star is Born. It was such a pivotal movie from my childhood. I remember watching it young and thinking, oh my gosh, this guy.
Yeah.
Wow. And I recently watched it when the next version, because there's so many versions of A Star is Born out there. And even the one that I saw with Streisand and Kris Kristofferson was not the first. I think it was the second or third as it was. And here we go with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. So before I watched this, I watched the one with Streisand and Kristofferson. It was so good to me again. I loved it. I loved the songs. I loved the movie. He looks so good in that to me.
Yeah.
That was just, and I thought, wow, I was such a young kid. And here I already thought he was hot. I thought he was all it. And I'm thinking, how did I think that when he was so much older? But I did. I saw all the people, other stars and actors just talking about what a good guy he was. It's kind of sad to see that passing. And then I think previous to that, Maggie Smith had passed away. Oh my gosh, she's been in a wealth of things. But of course, more recently, we think of like Harry Potter. And I think, was she in The Crown?
I'm not 100% certain on that, but Downton Abbey is where I love her.
That's what I meant to say.
Her. Okay, yeah,
that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
She was such a spunky gal in that. She's the dowager, and she's just got one-liners she would say to, like, they would say something, and she'd say, "Vulgarity is no replacement for wit," or something, or I forget how she said that. I said that totally wrong, but anyways, it's a really good line. And then there's another one that they always use, a meme of what's a weekend? She didn't know what that was. She just did such a great job with that character. It was wonderful.
Also, she was in Sister Act.
Okay.
With Whoopi Goldberg. And so I remember, because she always played this kind of cold person, but then she had this she was actually a nice person underneath. She just had this exterior that you thought that she was kind of not very warm. So yeah, she was just a great actress.
She was Wendy in what's the Peter Pan movie with Robin Williams?
Oh, was it Hook?
Yes, Hook. Thank you. I was like, I knew it wasn't called Peter Pan. Yes, she was Wendy, like the elder Wendy in that movie. I just thought about that. That was a great role also.
I don't know if he passed this morning or yesterday, but was John Amos,
Hmm.
who was in Good Times, the
Yeah.
dad in Good Times, and Coming to America, and Roots.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just those three people. I know there's more, but those are
Hmm.
just the ones that I've seen in the last week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard to see all these people passing
Hmm.
that we kind of grew up with,
Yeah.
right? And that's what happens,
I know.
unfortunately. But it's still sad to
It
see
is.
them, but at least they leave these TV and movies to watch and
Hmm.
see them and see their work and see their talent and appreciate them. And then it reminds us to go back and try and watch
Hmm.
some of these things. So it's great. All right. So let's move on because we are here for Daryl Dixon season 2, episode 1, and it's the Book of Carol. So here we are anticipating Carol's return. It was very exciting. We've been waiting to see Carol and Daryl together, and while we don't quite see them together yet, we get to see both of them, which is kind of cool. So tell me, what was your overall thoughts on this premiere?
Well, I was very excited for it because I really enjoyed the first season. I was much better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't know what to expect, so I kind of had low expectations, but it surpassed all of those. So going into season 2, I'm like, okay, now what's happening? And everything that I'd read had said that was going to start very shortly after events in the first season. So I thought, okay, we're going right into it, to what's happening next. So yeah, it's just excited to see Daryl again, to anticipate what's going to happen. We know they're going to Spain for season 3. So how are they getting there? And all these questions, of course. And then it's always good to see, Carol again, kicking ass and taking names like always. And I really liked Ash a lot. I know we did it was a very Carol heavy episode, which I kind of expected to, with her introduction, reintroduction into the universe and things of that nature. But I really liked Ash. I like this character. Now I've done some
Yeah.
research to watch some other things with him in it because I don't know if it's the character or is it the actor portraying the character. So I'm excited to see some of the other roles that he's been in. And I just hope he sticks around because sometimes these new people in these spinoffs, they don't last. So overall, I thought it was a decent episode.
Yeah, I was, of course, so excited. I can't wait. We need our, Walking Dead fix.
Yes.
And so I was very excited for it to come back on to see these two. It was great seeing Carol again back in action as Carol. She doesn't miss a beat. It is who we know, who we recognize. And, it's funny. One of the initial introductions is, "Are you crazy, lady?"
That's awesome.
Certifiable. Yeah. So it's like we know we're getting Carol as we know her. And Daryl continues to be his badass self and just not looking to please people, just kind
Mhm.
of, walk his own path.
Mhm.
So it was really good to see them both. I thought it was a good episode. Was I blown away like I was season 1? Not quite there yet.
Mhm.
I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed it. It was good, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting. So that's how I'm feeling right now. A lot of this episode really concentrated on Carol,
Mhm.
most of Carol, even though we get to see where Daryl is too. So I want to talk a little bit about her. I want to know maybe a highlight that you saw about her or anything that you want to talk about
Mhm.
regarding Carol.
So I feel like she's in kind of a low place for some reason. She's always Carol. She always has kind of that same outward persona. She's always reading people. She's always checking stuff. She's always working every angle she can. She's a survivor and she's always going
Yeah.
to be a survivor. She had to be, even in her marriage when she was abused by her husband, all these things. She's always had to be a fighter and a survivor. But just something in her demeanor gives me this impression there's more going on besides just missing Daryl. I mean, obviously she does miss Daryl, but there's been times where she's been without him for long periods of time. So why is it different this time? I just read into this a little more because
Mm,
you know we still have the distressing radio call that got cut off.
yeah.
What happened there is, like the timeline thing. Does she know Rick's back and she needs to get Daryl? She knows Daryl needs to know this information. What's going I feel like there's just some inner stuff going on. Obviously, we're going to learn what things are happening with her. But this initial reintroduction, she just seems very different on, I guess, an emotional level is what I guess, because physically she's she's doing what she has to do, like always. And of course, it's always great to see her because nothing stops her ever. And so that was kind of like my initial, kind of thing. Did you have some thoughts too then?
Well, as you were saying how her state of mind is,
Mhm,
it made me think about when she is meets up with that gang and they tell her
mhm,
and she's her badass self and she does all the things that she does. Uh, they tell her where
mhm.
Daryl's at
Yeah.
and tell her where the boatyard is at a couple miles down. And so she goes there. And I thought, like, when she went there, I was putting myself in that
Mhm,
situation thinking, how would I feel if I thought my friend was all the way in France, right? And we have no way to get there. There aren't commercial airlines going that way. There aren't boats going
mhm.
that way, except for, I guess,
Yeah.
periodically, however often a boat comes by. How is she going to get
Mhm,
there? And when she stepped onto that sand and
mhm,
looked around at those boats, I felt it. Like
mhm.
I
Yeah.
felt like a loss of control or a loss. Like
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
felt it. I'm like, and I know that she's going to get there somehow, but I still felt like what you must be thinking. I can't imagine what I would feel if my loved one, think about it, if
Mm.
your child,
Yeah.
your husband,
Mhm,
is like clear somewhere else and you're thinking, how am I going to get from here to there when I have
mhm,
no means to get there. So that really struck me.
mhm,
And I think that is also what propels her in this episode
mhm,
because to me, she is desperate. She's in survival mode. She has to use her instincts and we see her do that
mhm,
through meeting these guys and also when she first encounters Ash and where he's at, her thinking just
mhm.
she's just very clever.
Yeah, she is.
And yeah, so she's just going through a lot. So I hear what you're saying about there being more than just her finding her friend, like what's motivating
Mhm,
her. But at the same time, I also think that if she gets something stuck in her head and she
mhm,
knows her friend is in a bad
mhm.
situation, then it's
Yeah.
going to spark her to keep going
Mhm.
and figuring that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also the symbolism in this with Carol was just, was those gut wrenching, things with Sophia and the Cherokee Rose and all those things. It's fun to see those things, but at the same time, it kind of gives you a jolt because you're like, oh gosh, and you got to relive that with her. Carol's been through a lot through her journey, and she's lost several children that other ones that weren't her biological children, but I think that biological child that's going to stick with her forever. And
Yeah.
it affect her differently because she raised her from an infant. They're all hard on her, but Sophia, that's it's much different. And the way it
Yeah.
was, the whole, I mean, coming out of the bar, just all of that, it just gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I guess my like kind of final thought on her initially was just, I was so mad at her the way she manipulated Ash. I understand, and perhaps I do the same thing, but I just felt so bad for him.
So when he says that she can spend the night, he's going to take her to the barn or whatever, and she
Mhm.
kind of like, the barn, and then they walk up. I knew, of course, all of us know, all of us that know Sophia and the barn know,
Like that's what, yeah.
and so I knew it was going there. I knew they were going to probably show a flashback or whatever
Mhm.
it was, and that's exactly what it did, which I really enjoyed
Mhm.
seeing that part because I'm I'm sure in all of our brains it's like, "Oh my god, the barn. She's
Mhm.
gonna go to a barn." And then we see it and we see her. So I really enjoyed seeing that
Mhm.
part. And you're right, it was hard and it just shows you the weight of survivor's
Mhm.
guilt of being the one to survive and
Yeah.
having a daughter. And when Ash was saying that about his son, how he should have been there to protect
Mhm.
him and it's the one job as a parent that you do, And as he was saying that, I thought, oh, she's
Oh,
thinking all
absolutely.
these things about herself. And so when the words came out of her mouth, oh, my husband, Ed, and then all of a sudden she's like, he went to France and he took my daughter. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, Carol, don't do it. Don't do it. That's what I was saying. I really said, "Oh, Carol,
Yeah.
don't do it. You're not going to be able to come back from this because you're lying, and then you're going to have to come clean
Mhm.
about this lie at some point. Some point, it's going to come back. I would think."
Yeah.
And so I knew that she was doing something that she needed to do, but it was so Carol though. It was so
Yes.
Carol. So, yeah, and then that Cherokee Rose, I love these little
Mhm.
pieces that we
Yeah.
see from The Walking Dead and how they show both Daryl and Carol
Mm.
in that flashback. Man, they are so
I
young.
know.
So young. And then I'm thinking, okay, how old was I when I watched this and how old am I now? So, same thing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I'm sure if I held a picture of when I first watched this to now, I'd see a difference too. So, yeah, and then the curiosity that she had
Yeah.
for, going into the greenhouse and, that kind of pivoted the plans of that whole place
You
and
call it
moved them into a
curiosity, and I call it being nosy. I'm like, "What are you doing? Get out of his stuff." He's established all this, and you're gonna mess it up.
I like it. Curiosity, nosy, it's all the same.
Whatever. But I mean, what else is she gonna do? She's there. There's nothing. There's no TV. She's got to keep herself entertained.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she can't let it go. That's to her. It's to her, right? She just
Exactly. It is 100%
what's
Carol.
in there? Well, what if whatever's there could help her?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know. Like
Yeah.
maybe there's weapons, maybe there's a walkie-talkie, maybe there's something more
Mhm. Oh,
there.
yeah, for sure.
So you just don't know. But I thought it was interesting about the power and it stopping or needing to be rebooted, and that opens the doors to let these walkers in. I thought, that's how often does that happen, and have they been into this place before? Because that's not the first time that the power or
Yeah.
has stopped
Yeah, I
and
thought it
things
was
have
odd.
unlocked.
I didn't read much else about that to like look into it any further to see why that was that way, but
Yeah. Yeah.
there might be an explanation.
Yeah. But then, of course, she has to encounter all those
Yeah.
walkers, and then he comes back and he's all, "What did you do? What the heck did you do here?" All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about the relationships that we
Mhm.
see, but I'd love to talk about Daryl and know what you thought about uh, where he is at
Mhm.
and what he's experiencing and what is happening in France.
Yeah, he's definitely feeling like a, outcast. He kind of always is, but this is a little different. But he does seem a little bit happy though. He misses his family and he's excited about that. But there was just something, that he did look a little bit happy for Daryl, which but I thought that we don't see a lot of Daryl in this episode again, which I expected because I mean I figured it would be Carol that we were going to be focused on. But what we did see, it was great to see him with Laurent and teaching him things, even though that's not what the Nest people think they should be doing because of his greater, whatever that he's supposed to be doing, his destiny, I guess. And but yeah, so it was good to see that because Laurent, he looks to Daryl as a father figure because he lived with all these nuns and he didn't have a lot of male, any like it sounded like through the priest visited once in a while, but in this apocalypse that's not always easy to do, so he didn't get a lot of exposure to other men and things like that. So it was fun to see that beginning part, that he's kind of doing that. And I really think that Daryl, is it Lo Sang, is that how you say his name? Yeah,
I think
Daryl,
so.
I feel like he's really got his eye on him, like he's putting on this good front, like, yeah dude, I'll be friends with you and I'm going to talk to you, but I'm still keeping my eye on you because he doesn't know him, he doesn't trust him. So I feel like he's really doing that, which I think is going to be a good thing. And I just love that despite everything everyone tells him, he still goes on and does things Daryl's way. He's like, don't use force unless you have to. Daryl's like, we have to. And so, he does. And I think, he'll regret not killing Janae or what, because I mean, that's just, of course, just something that's gonna come back
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
we've seen in the
Yeah.
trailer anyway. We've seen bits and
Yeah.
pieces, but yeah, overall, I thought it was very slim on Daryl in this episode, but what we did see, it was just a kind of a good little picture of what was it 2 weeks later that what's going on with him acclimating at the nest and things.
Yeah. So actually, the time of this episode went by really fast. Because I tend to look at the clock every once in a while, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, we're almost done?"
Yeah.
And so it did go by very
Mhm.
fast, and when I initially watched it, I thought it was a little bit even, Daryl, Carol, but no, when I watched it the second time, I'm like, "No, this is really all about Carol,"
Mhm.
and then Daryl pieces are inserted in there.
Mhm.
But for saying that, I thought we did get to see what was happening with
Mhm.
him. It wasn't just like a minute and
Yeah.
then it's gone. It's like, no, we get to see little pieces of what's happening. We know it's 2 weeks later. We know that he's mentoring Laurent. We know how he's doing it. We know I felt like we did learn a lot about
Mhm.
what is happening there. I felt I felt Daryl struggle to find his place. I thought it was very interesting that he said, "I keep thinking about the people back home. I wonder if they're thinking about me."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Daryl, don't you know these people? You know them. They are thinking about you. And we know Carol is thinking about you. We know, I'm sure, so many,
Mhm.
Judith, just people, whoever. Daryl's such an important part. Of course, they're thinking about him. So, but I kind of feel like he's thinking, oh, am I forgotten? Am I thinking about them more than they're thinking
Yeah.
about me? Which I thought it's kind of heartbreaking to hear
It
him
is.
say that. But yes, I love that Daryl is, doing what he does, like you said, like he's just saying what he's saying about needing to go after them. And he says, "Oh, we have to basically throw the first punch." And Lasang says, "Well, I want to make sure that we're the ones who throw the last punch." What's interesting, at first, I thought, wow, Daryl says something, then Lasang says something, and it's kind of opposite of each other, right? But I felt like Lasang a little bit reminded me of in Cobra Kai Miyagi Do sense, because you've got to not be you got to just fight when you need to fight, not you know do it the way Daryl is doing it. But this is survival. There
Mhm.
are walkers. It's just not regular life. So there's a different
Yeah.
approach here. You
Mhm.
have to teach this kid how to live, how to
Mhm.
survive, and then you can teach the other things. So I think that there's something behind what Lasang
Oh,
is saying, which we haven't learned yet, and we'll learn soon
yeah.
enough. But yeah, for Daryl, yeah, I don't know. He seems to be a restless type always,
Mhm.
so I don't know that he can rest here
Mhm.
because he does have family back home.
Mhm.
And yeah, his moments when he has that moment where he kind of leads them into that, because their detonation doesn't work.
Mhm.
And so he just comes out with the gun
Yeah.
blazing and does what he needs to do. I think he intended to kill Janae. It's just
Yeah.
that
That
explosion
explosion happened.
happened.
Mhm.
So it caught him and he went to turn back to do it. So I don't think it was a choice for him
Yeah.
not to. I think he was going to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Holy crap, he's gonna kill her."
Mhm.
But he doesn't get the chance to, which made sense because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, man, she's coming out like, okay, you're gonna do it, do it." Like,
Yeah.
she was standing up to him to like, "Okay, you're gonna kill me, just kill me."
Mhm.
And then she's, "Oh, no, I got a break, I'm going for
Yeah.
it." So, anyway, let's talk about those relationships with everybody involved. There was a lot of themes and, are the villains, as we
Mhm.
call them, and the other characters that we see. So what comes to mind for you?
Well,
Who did
Ash,
you
of course, because I said that. I was, I just like him and being so trusting of Carol, and he doesn't know
Yeah.
her, and it just seems kind of odd. But then you think about he's been alone for how long? You know what I mean? It's like there's this person, who needs companionship, and I can provide this service for her. So what else am I going to do? Kind of thing. I
Yeah.
mean, it seems. I think a lot of people had a big lot of trouble with how he would just be, okay, I'll take you to France, and that sort of thing. But I just think he's a caring person, and I think he feels, he lost his son and thinks hers is still alive. So he's going to do whatever he can to help this parent not have to grieve like he's had to grieve on losing his child. So I've really enjoyed him. And I like their kind of chemistry between the two of them, because I guess can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but there's just something about the two of them. So I do hope he sticks around for a bit.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, and then, Lo saying that really, he really concerns me, because this new girl, I've lost her name at the moment. I can't think of what her character name is, but she's like, we're ready. And he's like, no, we're not ready. And she's like, well, you're not going to get them to trust you or come to your side, I think is what she says. And it's like, well, what's going on there? And then he starts talking about a ceremony. And I'm like, what? Okay, wait a minute. And I started really thinking about that later. Like, what ceremony? I mean, we don't know what they are thinking, but the thing that popped into my head was the story that I know about a Messiah ended in a crucifixion. And I'm like, so what? You know what I mean? Like, what do they think they're doing with him? And so it's just very, very concerning, this little side conversation and what Lo Sang's doing. He's got all these people thinking he's got all their best interests, and I don't think he does. I think he's got his own
Yeah.
agenda. So so he's interesting. But that's The Walking Dead. People are always out for number one, and we'll see what happens.
You got my wheels turning a little bit too. So I see trust a lot, the
Yeah.
theme of trust in here, because first with Ash, yeah, he trusts Carol.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I think he's just a all around good person,
Mm-hmm.
because he just seems like that type of person to be so helpful to her in the very beginning. Because anybody else after living in the apocalypse for this long would have like chased her off
Yeah.
no matter what. But he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes her in, lets her stay in his barn. I mean, he leaves her with his airplane and all those tools, all his stuff is there. It's not like a barn that's empty, it
Yeah.
has stuff in there. And then when he goes and flies, he's leaving her to his whole place.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a lot of trust
Yeah.
right there, too. And he trusts her at what she says, which is interesting and bizarre, because it's hard to really trust people in this apocalypse. We've seen so much
Mm-hmm.
and learned so much. And so, unless he just has been here his whole time and still has retained that
Mm-hmm.
trust for people, I don't know. But I do really like him too. I hope he stays.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or continues in the series. But yeah, who's to say how long, and then what will happen when it is divulged that he already knows Carol lied to him, but he thinks it's because not just fix the car that
Mm-hmm.
she wrecked, but fly her
Yeah.
somewhere. And then with Madame Genet, of course we can't trust her at
Yeah.
all, but we
No.
know this. And when she says to Daryl, angels always send their most vicious demon to do their dirty work. And here you are. Okay, two things went through my mind. One, the line is great. It's a great line. But two, I'm like, wait, you're talking about yourself. You're the evil one. What did Daryl do that was evil? He did nothing evil but try to save and take care of a kid and a nun, right? So I'm like, it's funny that she would speak those words
Yeah.
when she was the one, but
Yeah.
that was a great
That
line.
was
I'm like,
awesome.
this is
Yeah.
really good. I like it. She's delivered it really well.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Lasang, that's where you had my wheels turning, because I already don't trust him.
Mhm.
I already am concerned about this
Mhm.
ceremony. The fact that him and Daryl are already react to things differently, see things
Mhm.
differently, and I feel like he's pretending to be a certain way, and
Mhm.
he's not going to. Just like when Daryl said, look, they're going to kill those people. When Janae doesn't get what she wants, she's going to kill them. She's not going to let them free.
Mhm.
And so he's like, we need to go get them. And he says, oh, but we need to be patient. I'm thinking, okay, it wasn't your first thought to go protect these people, because you already have what you want, which is Laurent.
Yeah.
And what is that you don't really care about some other people that are out there. And it takes Daryl and some people to go get them, which
Mhm.
he does. So, yeah, this guy, I don't know what's going to happen. It's very interesting. So
Yeah.
that'll be that. I love that they put the twist on there because at the end of last season, I thought this guy was great. I loved the way he was, the way he talked to Daryl, how he was from the States and such. And I thought, oh, this is going to be good. But
Yeah.
you just never know about
Yeah.
people. So trust again. Do we trust this guy? No. Do we trust Janae? No.
Mm-mm.
Do we trust Ash? I think so.
Yeah. I think we can trust him.
Yeah. So it'll be good to see.
Yeah.
All right. So there was a few other things that I wanted to briefly touch upon is one, the walkers, right? So we get to see walkers
Mhm.
again. I thought that when they were taking off in the airplane and that one got the propeller, I thought it was very cool.
It's always
Like they
cool.
had to do that, right? I mean, they have to.
There's a
And
spinning blade. Yeah, it has to be
I
thrown
know.
into it.
Yeah, and then the way Carol was killing a lot of them with that I forget what you call it, but the thing that you do gardening with, that thing that she's, like, plummeting in their hand. Well, I always wonder, what if it breaks off, which it has for some people, but
Yeah.
right? But what if it breaks off? It can't be that strong,
Yeah.
and, just gotta keep going trying to kill them, and then she had to climb up that or put those shelvings together to climb up to get to the roof. So it's kind of cool to see these walkers again. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get to the fast walkers
Mhm.
again soon. Oh, and then she tells him, she says something to Ash about this walker. And in my brain, I'm thinking, does he call them
Mhm.
walkers? Does he know what she's talking about? Because not everybody calls them
Mhm.
walkers, because every
We
spinoff we see or whatever, a new community, they always call them a new name. So
Yeah.
I thought it was funny or
Yeah.
interesting that she called him a walker and he didn't question it. So that it did stick out to me. I did think about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, that's a
And
great yeah.
then
That's
and also the tapes, when she was listening to the cassette tapes, the breathe and everything else, and she's throwing him out the window. And then when they get in the airplane and he tells her breathe and he sounds like the cassette tapes and she looks at him and I thought to myself, well, wait, was he a voiceover actor or does it just sound familiar? Like what was that? I
yeah.
don't I don't know if there was an intention there that I missed, but
I
I
kind of
thought
thought it
that
was
that
just like
was
kind of a comic thing, with the tapes. She was just ticked off at everything, and then the one gets stuck in there. So then it was like this almost foreshadowing of, she didn't want to hear that, but then she did need to hear it because
yeah.
later on. So maybe just that, but yeah, it was like, oh gosh, so that kind of came back around.
Yeah. And there was some plot holes in
Mhm.
this. Like I said, the power thing. I felt like when that first happened and she goes over to press the button and then she doesn't and then it opens and all the walkers come in, I'm thinking again, how did this not happen multiple times through all the years, and why wouldn't he have wire or something around the gates to keep them secure in case that happens?
Yeah.
Because you can't go around to each gate locking them or pressing that button and having it, I don't know,
Mhm.
something was missing for me. There was another thing that I thought of where we saw time pass. Oh, and it might have been the beginning with Daryl. We didn't see quite from when Daryl sees Laurent and all those walkers
Mhm.
are coming up, and then all of a sudden it's 2 weeks later, and it's like, "Wait, I wanted to see what happened there," but they kinda skipped it. So I noticed, like, a few things that jumped in
Mhm.
time or, and I'm like, I miss those things," or
Mhm.
"How did that happen?" Or, "How is it that" yeah, they showed the gas, but for the airplane, but, like, how are you gonna get this little plane all the way there, and how is it that you have a plane and no one has broken into Ash's place to get this plane? I mean,
Mhm.
people would want this to get out. So, it's those little things
Yeah.
that have me question it, which I didn't question any of that stuff in the first season.
Mhm.
I'm noticing that I'm questioning it this first
Yeah.
episode. So, those were the things that I noticed. Was there anything with you? Did you notice anything?
Yeah, I think all those, like, I kind of forgot about the tapes until you just said that. But yes, I think I was in agreement with all those things
Yeah.
that you said.
Since we talked about Carol and Daryl a little bit, I want to revisit our question of the day because I think we both have kind of feeling the same about this, but you just never know, right? If
Mhm.
we really put ourselves in that situation. So our question of the day was Carol justified in lying to Ash? How far would you go for a friend? So what do you think, Renee?
I guess I can understand it, but I don't agree with it. And, she uses his grief for her own gain. And that's kind of hard to forget. It's just tough.
Yeah.
We meet this nice guy, and I get her connection to Daryl. I understand it. I really do. But it's like you would think, kind of like you mentioned earlier, how he was talking about these things, and you know that's resonating with her as a parent, that she was feeling those things, but then she just went and just lied anyway, and just has this guy thinking they're going to go rescue her daughter. So it's, I guess to me, it's a very Carol thing to do. And I've always, whenever I write about Carol, she will do, she makes the hard choices. And yeah, sometimes other people get hurt or whatever, but when she sets her mind to do these things, it's to save her friends, her family, her loved ones. And it's because we just met Ash. We've known Carol for a little bit. It's easier to forgive her because it's Carol, I think.
Yeah.
And we know her motivation and that kind of stuff. So I didn't think it was right, but being Carol and all that, and Daryl, of course, I guess, I don't know. I'm basically on the fence about it.
It's really hard, right? And I think that's why it's great. It's why it's the one thing that stuck out. It's a thing I see on
Mhm.
social media. It's the captions of articles that I see.
Mhm.
It's the thing that stuck out to me when I watched
Mhm.
it because it was the one time I'm like, Carol, don't do it. Carol, don't do it. I was really saying that to myself. I'm like, don't do it because I don't know why, because it feels morally wrong.
Mhm.
Because you're right. This person is being genuine and his his child is
Mhm.
lost and he's pouring all this out and then I think she's going to like, oh, we have this in common, I feel you, I relate, this and that, and then she just totally lies. But at the same time, if Carol didn't do that, this wouldn't stick out to me. Carol wouldn't be Carol.
Mhm.
Carol makes these crazy things. That's why we love her, that's why we root for her, that's why we cheer for her, because she does all these things. Daryl is her ride or die.
Mhm.
This is her person. She has to go save him.
Mhm.
So she's thrown into a corner. If I was thrown into a corner to help my loved one, I guess I could. I can't see myself doing that because
Mhm.
I would try, me personally, I would try to use the truth
Mhm.
and my heart to get to this person. But would that be enough?
Mhm.
Would this guy, if she said, I got to go find my friend,
Yeah.
is she going to be like, okay, let me go help you find your friend?
I'm
No,
gonna
he's
risk my
not going to
life.
do
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And maybe her other plan is to, well, she wouldn't kill him because she doesn't know how to fly an airplane. She seemed kind of afraid of
Yeah.
airplanes. So she needs him. And so is this the way she can get him to do what she needs? Yes, it is. So was Carol justified in Carol land? Yes.
That's a great answer. There you go. That's the answer.
Yes, in Carol land it is. So, woo, that's me. Friends out there, we want to know what you think, so please share it with us. We would love to know. Again, you can comment here on YouTube or get to us on social media. All of our links are in our show notes, or just follow Screens in Focus. All right. So we are at our segment, and the award goes to. So, Renee, I would love to know, what was your favorite quote, character, or moment?
I'm gonna go with a moment, and it was the Sophia throwback because it was phenomenal. It was very reminiscent of seeing Glenn in Dead City. That whole thing was like, oh wait, we're going back to all these emotions and things. And
Yeah.
I loved how they did it. It was incredible how I read several articles and things of interviews with, like, even because Greg Nicotero directed the episode, and so he was
Yeah.
talking about how he was there when they filmed that. So it was really cool, the insight to it. And when the girl that they cast as Sophia in this scene, they like reached out or something, then he's like, oh, she's got to touch her. And that, it was like, ugh, as a parent, you're like all these emotions. But I just thought I thought it was amazing. And I'm always a sucker for any of these scenes that throw back to the main series and these, in the spin-offs and things. So that was
Yeah,
my
I
moment.
love that.
Yeah, it was so
Yeah,
good.
that's awesome. I know. I had trouble with this because I thought, that one quote that
Yes.
Janae says to Daryl is so, so
Oh,
good.
good.
But it doesn't fit to me, though,
Yeah.
even though I love that quote. It
Yeah.
just doesn't fit because Daryl is no demon, not evil. Um, and then I thought, I'm going to say character is Carol. It's Carol.
Yeah.
Seeing Carol again. It's been too long. We didn't see her in season 1 of Daryl Dixon. And seeing her, and even though I hated that lie, if she didn't do it, it wouldn't be Carol. And the fact that it happened is so Carol.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love her. And that moment with Sophia was amazing. The moment seeing that Cherokee Rose was amazing. Her riding that Daryl's bike,
Mm-hmm.
her getting a crossbow, her fighting, surviving on her own, her figuring out ways, her being so clever, just such a smart woman. And it's a woman that is not super youthful,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's a strong woman. What a role model this woman is. So I love Carol. And so that
Okay.
is who my award goes to.
There you go. Great award.
Long overdue
Yeah.
Emmy for her that, that we there should be a Walking Dead Emmy, or maybe called something else,
Yes.
award.
Yeah, I agree. They
Yeah.
do not get
So,
enough. None of them have ever gotten enough recognition for the
right.
performances that they do.
Yeah, exactly. And they deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, what are your thoughts for the next episode or for the season? What are you looking forward to, or what do you anticipate? What are you thinking?
Well, like I've mentioned maybe 2 other times, I hope Ash makes it for a while at least. I'm excited to see how this, if Daryl gets this in his mind that okay, it's time to cut bait and go. He's like how is Carol gonna find, like it's already like how's she gonna find him, kind of needle in a haystack kind of thing, but yet there's like, oh, if he keeps moving, he's gotta stay in one place so she can find him.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to see how that all plays out. Which I wonder, we got lucky in when we were watching The Ones Who Live, and Rick and Michonne were, reunited right away, but I have a feeling this
Yeah.
one I might drag out a little bit, so we may be waiting mid-season or something before we see them together or something. We'll see. Maybe it'll be sooner. And I'm, of course, I'm very excited. I want to learn more about Laurent and what they think. I still, they've said all these different things the way that it's been described by even AMC and things like that. And then the characters, what do they want to do with this poor little kid? Like, what do they
Yeah.
think that he can do to save humanity? What can this little boy do? I mean, he's smart, he's intuitive. We see all these things, but yeah, but I'm very, very intrigued to see how that works. I'm curious, will, Laurent and Isabel end up in Spain with them? That's another, exciting, because, Daryl's trying to figure out what to do. And there's a closeness there with these new
Yeah.
friends of his, and yeah, I guess just, what's going to happen with, we haven't even seen, oh, what's his name?
Oh, the bad guy?
Yeah. Cause is he a bad guy though anymore?
I think so, because I think in the previews I heard him say something and I can't
Mhm.
remember what he said, but
Well,
he said
he,
about Daryl, I
okay.
thought.
So see, I don't remember if he said anything about Daryl, but was it like, because he kind of ticked Janae off, with his
Mm.
actions. So like, is he maybe kind of his own guy now? Not really on Daryl's side, not really on her side. So
Ah.
that's kind of what I'm hoping. And
Ah.
I don't know. So I'm just curious to see what's going to happen with him, because there was some issues there at the end of the last season with him and
Yeah.
his
Yeah,
actions.
he let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he let them go.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just all kinds of things. And of course, we just want to see more Carol, see how she gets there, and just how things build into this third season. It's kind of crazy because we know this third season's coming up, so we know Daryl and Carol are safe. Well, we know they're safe anyways. They're series. They probably aren't dying in this, but
Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
Daryl dies and comes back as a ghost and follows her around.
Yeah.
I don't know, or she'll have him as a walker maybe. But yeah, so it'll just be yeah. I think my biggest thing, of course, will be seeing them back together and how that will come to be, and what it'll be like when they're reunited after all these years. So
Right, right,
yeah, but
right.
I
Yeah,
have I think it's going to be a great season. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, this first episode," they got to build it from something, and it's building
yeah,
to something. So I feel like
yeah,
it was a good episode to get her back into the swing of things, and then let's move forward now and see what's going to happen next.
yeah. Actually, my list was similar to yours, was Ash. What's gonna happen with Ash? How much is he gonna play a part in this? I wanna
Mhm.
see him more.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he sticks around. Laurent, I wanna know more about his abilities, and the fact that when Daryl was showing him at the very beginning how to kill the walkers, I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh, so the walkers do see him." Because remember how we were
Yeah.
kind of like, "Whoa, they walked past him, and they did this, and they did that." So,
Mhm.
I wanted him to have this thing about him, and that kinda, like, bursted that bubble
Dang
for me.
it.
But I still want him to have something that is unusual or different.
Mhm.
I find that fascinating, and I don't want them to lose that
Yeah.
because that was very important to me in
Mhm.
loving the series, and I just like that, so hopefully they continue with that story
Mhm.
of it, which I think they will because they still think he's special
Yeah.
and different, so we'll see. And you had mentioned it earlier toward the beginning of the episode about the radio,
Mm.
about Carol saying blah blah blah's back,
Mhm.
and we're like, whoa, what's back? Is somebody back? Is something back? What's happening? So when she reaches him, is she going to tell him what it is? Are we going to find out what that was? Because it's killing all of us
Yeah.
to know what was it. So, and then, yeah, what's their journey to Spain? I
Mhm.
actually had Italy in my head, but when you said Spain earlier, I'm like, oh yeah, it's Spain. I knew they were going somewhere, but how are they going to get there and why and what
Mhm.
happens in between? So it'll just be so much fun to see. But right now, I guess I'm looking forward to Ash and Carol landing
Yeah.
somewhere. And I think they land in Greenland or something. I think they
Yeah.
say they do. I don't know. But watching the previews, it looks fun.
Yeah.
Or it's they will get together soon, but I just don't want. Oh, there was a scene with Carol and Janae, and I'm like, why are they in the same car? Is she holding her prisoner? Or is she doing what's happening? So it's very interesting. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, whew, that was our wrap up of season 2, episode 1. I love it. Okay, we're going to shift gears and we are going to talk about TV and movie recommendations. So I would love to know, Renee, if what you've been watching.
Well, I'm still doing my TV shows. I'm still watching my first run through of Lost and Game of Thrones, which everybody's like, "What? Wait, those?" I'm like, I know. I'm doing it. Okay, people have tell me I
Yay,
gotta
she's
watch these.
doing
Yes,
it.
and
She's
I'm
doing
loving both
it.
of them so much. And yeah, so
Where are you in what season are you in Lost and what season are you in Game of Thrones?
2 in Lost, in Game of Thrones, I want to say 4, maybe.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's some 4, maybe even into 5 now. I tried that.
Woo.
Yeah, so no, it's good stuff. So I'm enjoying both of them. They're series that people have told me for years you just will love them, watch them, and I didn't listen, and well, here I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
But I'm doing
That's
it now.
okay.
Yeah,
You're doing it now.
yeah, and
Very
really,
good.
yeah, and very enjoying both of them. And then movies, we're
Awesome.
going through our annual Halloween. We always start in September, start watching all of our, a lot of our favorite Halloween movie or spooky movies, horror movies. We watch them all year, but then we kind of there's certain ones we have to, like Trick or Treat, with little Sam. I wore my Sam shirt tonight. So yeah.
Ah, yeah.
But yeah, so we watched that one. We also watched The Strangers from 2008, which I just love that movie. And have you watched that one?
I don't know. I
Oh,
don't know
well,
if
you
I
would know
have.
because
Yeah.
there's a line in that
Oh,
to me is like one of the scare. It's just one of the. It gives me chills. Just the one line because it's just so crazy. I won't tell you in case you haven't watched it, but it's a really really good one. And then we finally got to the movies, like whatever. Well, I don't even remember when this was, and saw or no, did we stream it? We even streamed it. But anyways,
I
A
think you
Quiet
did.
Place Day One. So we did get to see that finally, which it was very different than I expected, but I really
Loved
enjoyed it.
it.
Yes, it was so good.
Yeah.
but it was not what I expected. I had a different thing in mind, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so well done. And then I watched a movie from 1992 that I have never watched. I'm like,
Oh,
Death Becomes Her with Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, and Bruce Willis, and it was so
yes.
good. Like it was just goofball, whatever,
The
comedy
holes
horror.
in their bodies.
And he's a plastic surgeon, so he's always like fixing their stuff after they're dead and all that. It was such a funny. I mean, yeah, it was really good, and to see those actors that long ago together, it had such good chemistry and stuff. It was just a fun, like, not even a horror comedy, but I guess undead comedy. I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah. But anyway, so yeah, so that was really good. So that's just the ones we've recently watched, and we're hoping. Or is it this weekend the Joker movie comes out? Is that this weekend?
I don't know if it might be this
I
weekend.
think
I'm
so.
not sure. I
Yeah,
keep seeing it, but I've been seeing the advertisements for so many
I
weeks.
know.
It's hard to know if
Yeah.
it's this week that it's coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So we're hoping to. I think it's this weekend. If it is, we're hoping to get to see that. It's not.
Uh,
Not. So we'll see. Hopefully it works out. What about
yeah.
you?
So on TV, well, actually, it's not that recent, but Outlast season 2, I believe it's called Outlast. It's Alaska. It's a reality show. It's
Hmm.
on Netflix where these 16 people are dropped into Alaska. They're put on a team and they have to survive.
Hmm.
And they just have to survive this cold. I mean, that's really hard. This cold, they have to figure out how to build fire, they have to figure out food. And however long they last, and then at the very end, they've got to trek out of there to the spot. And whoever gets there first gets the $1,000,000. But you have to be in a team. You cannot be solo.
Oh wow.
And so a lot of them bow out because they get very, very sick,
Hmm.
either malnutrition, like they haven't eaten enough or drank enough, or they get hypothermia or just all kinds of things. One guy fell, hurt himself. It's just all kinds of things. And it's freezing cold. Like I feel for these people so bad. And they don't have sleeping bags or anything.
Oh
They just have to yeah, and it's super cold. The water is like anyway, it's such a like social experiment,
yeah.
right? So I'd seen season 1 when it had come out, and now I'm watching the season 2 ended or not ended. Season 2 came out maybe about 3 weeks ago. I can't even remember now. Maybe it's even a month ago, but it's really good. You can watch it at any time. It's produced by Jason Bateman.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. So I really enjoying that. I'm very late to the party like you with yours. So I'm watching Vikings. I'm on season 4. It's on Netflix. I'm loving it. So really enjoying that. And then for movies, I've seen 2 horror films recently. One is Speak No
Oh
Evil with
yeah.
James McAvoy. Did you see that?
Not yet, but that's like one of the
Ah,
top on my list. I really want to see that one. So
so it is a horror or categorized a horror, but it's not really horror. I mean, it feels more like a
isn't
thriller,
it more psychological than
mystery.
if or not?
Yeah, it's more like a thriller to
Yeah.
me,
Mhm.
really. It's nothing
Yeah. I know what
yeah,
you're saying.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's nothing like some slasher comes out or
Yeah.
something supernatural happens, nothing like that, right? It's just people.
Hmm.
People and what they do or are willing to do, and it's very creepy, and it was good. It was kept my attention. It was very interesting. It was
Hmm.
very intriguing. So I really enjoyed it, and I love James
Yeah.
McAvoy.
He's so
So I
good.
thought it was good. Then this weekend I watched The Substance with Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. Okay. I have to warn you if you go watch this. It's really good. It's really well done. It's the acting is phenomenal. Demi Moore is so good. The last 15 minutes, there are people that did not like it at all.
Hmm.
And in the people that I went with, one person's like, that ending just blew it for me because the ending, it's like a sledgehammer. It's going to
Hmm.
show you, it's body horror and it's showing you a lot. And if you could just take it for what it is, even though it might be hard graphically, you might have to look away. It's very bizarre, but it's all to prove this point of beauty, what women have to go through, how women feel measured,
Hmm.
and what they're willing to do to feel accepted, loved, valued, worthy,
Hmm.
whatever that might be. Because the premise is Demi Moore is she was a famous either actress, and then she was like a workout person, and then she turns 50, and they are like, Dennis Quaid plays this cartoonish, misogynistic man, and he's like, "Oh, you're 50, you're out," and he's got his eye is always in that
Yeah.
fish lens, like he just plays over the top. And so she is just like devastated that she's, 50, even though she's actually in real life older than this. To see her body, her face, everything. I mean, she looks amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the movie is good, but just be forewarned, you may not like the ending, but it's a point. It's a point of view, and it's a point. And I did enjoy the movie. So I did, but that's me. All right. And I do want to share with all of you, we do have a Halloween series called Screams in Focus. And Renee is on some of those episodes. So please be sure to tune in. The first one dropped October 1st. They're going to drop each Tuesday. So be on the lookout for those. Our first episode, Renee and I do, is Iconic Women in Horror. So those will be releasing the month of October. And we give a lot of we talk about a lot of classics, we talk about a lot of new movies, and then we also give recommendations on what's currently out there. So tune in. That's another thing you can tune in for. All right, Renee. Thank you for joining me today. As always, you have so much insight, and I love hearing your thoughts on everything. And so thank you for joining me today.
Of course, thank you. I always enjoy it, and I enjoy any of the podcasts we do, but especially when it's Walking Dead.
I
We
know.
enjoy those. Yeah. So no, thank you so much. I just love doing it.
And I'm sorry, I didn't share earlier, Renee. Do you want to just say a quick about Undead Walking? And I'll have the link in the show notes
Yeah.
just so that you can say that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I write I'm the editor for Undead Walking, and we just cover everything in the Walking Dead universe from what the actors are doing now till recaps of old episodes, recap of the new spin-offs, and just everything Walking Dead. So check us out at undeadwalking.com. Great.
Yes. And subscribe to Renee, please. Things come across my inbox in my email, and I see it, or on social media, I see it. I love the articles. I'm like, oh, that person's in this now. Cool. I'm going to go watch them. Or I saw the one with Kristofferson and Norman
Yeah.
Reedus. So yes, there's so much. They're very short articles. They're really well written.
Thank
So
you.
please check out what Renee has going there. And again, her link is in the show notes. All right, friends out there, we want to thank you for tuning in. We are so grateful you joined us today, and we hope something that we said today resonated with you, gave you a smile, gave you some inspiration. We want to remind you to subscribe to Screens in Focus at screensinfocus.com, and you can find our website and all the other links in our show notes. And remember to keep watching, keep exploring, and keep those screens in focus. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.